So introducing myself, I'm just looking through the names of people here at the moment. I recognise very few. It's been a fair while since I've been to any junior competition. It's fantastic to see so many new faces. Literally, I think I'm going to name and shame Jordan, Piers. I know a few people here, but not a huge amount. But yeah, so I started flying when I was, I don't know, 9 years old, maybe a bit less, in a flying family, very luckily. As a cadet through the gliding club, scrubbing gliders, pushing things around in return for some cheap flyings. I'm sure a few of you tonight are in or were in the same boat. Yeah, went solo, bronze, cross country, did my silver. Eventually, then started flying aerobatics. That's the way that gliding took me. I was fortunate enough to do a few, one world championships, did a few national championships, and winning one of the years. I then went to what did I do? I went then to work at the London Gliding Club as a course instructor for about a year, maybe just a bit over, before starting my training to be a commercial pilot, which I now do fly for Ryanair at the moment. Previously used to fly for Titan on the left-hand side of the picture there. Very lucky enough to fly lots of nice people all around the world, and now yeah, very stable life with Ryanair, so very, very happy there. Currently, I'm the CFI and examiner at the Essex Gliding Club. I'm a tug pilot there, but also, I suppose more pertinent to what we're going to be doing tonight, I'm a power instructor. I do actually hold a DA as well for formation and aerobatics. And top left-hand corner there is my little cassette racer, which I display around the UK. So that's a tiny bit about me. And tonight, hopefully, I'm going to give you a bit of an insight into how you can learn to fly powered airplanes and how you can use both skills, both gliding and power, to complement each other. I will just apologise. I've got an 8-week-old puppy in the room next to me, and she is crying quite a lot. So I just apologise there. Hopefully you can't hear her too badly. Brilliant. So tonight's presentation, we're going to cover understanding your own goal. So what I think is very important when you set out and to think, I want to fly some powered airplanes, or whatever you want to do in flying. I was very fortunate that I knew exactly what I wanted to do from the outset. I knew the way I wanted to do it, and I knew how I wanted to do it. And I really realize now how fortunate those people are, because you've got a clear path in your head, and I think understanding the route is very, very important. So if you're sitting here tonight as a cadet, or you're sitting here tonight as a person that's contemplating a career in flying, or contemplating just doing a PPL, or whatever you want to do in gliding, my biggest advice to you would just be trying your very best to kind of carve out a route path, see what you want at the end, what's the end goal for you, and hopefully tonight can give you a bit of clarity into how you can get to that. But it goes without saying with anything, with gliding, power, try and work out what you want your end goal to be. We're going to look at the benefits of both methods. I see flying, I should have put. I see a lot of people, a lot of the time I go flying around, whether it's in the power world, whether it's in the gliding world, you kind of hear this, you're a power pilot, you've gone to the dark side. That's the biggest one I've heard, the dark side. Well, actually, talking to a lot of people, it's quite annoying that, really, because they complement each other very well. And I know that I'm a better glider pilot through some of the things I've learned with single engine piston airplanes. And I wouldn't just end it there with all the power flying. I know that some of my gliding has been enhanced by going to work. And I know that some of what I see at work has helped me with gliding. So it works vice versa, and they both complement each other very, very nicely. We're going to have a little look at that. I'm going to look at the route, path, or paths. Now, this is going to be the point into which I'm probably going to be asked some very difficult questions. Probably, I'm going to give you the best of my knowledge. I think it's fairly accurate, but there might be a few different ways. I've kind of left out the MPPL route path a tiny bit, not really touched on that too much, and also not a lot on the FI TMG. I know a lot of that is being changed, and I thought I'd avoid jumping into the fire pit and avoid the biggest bit of controversy at the moment, which is probably motor gliders and how many traps you can fall into with those. Going to look at owning a light aircraft and actually going through a few alleyways with how you can operate one, mainly through the Light Aircraft Association, the LAA, being a very good thing to get yourself into. We're going to break down the costs, and using as an example of an aeroplane that I used to own, which is 112 Jodel, and breaking down the sort of costs and actually understanding quite how cheap it can be to run a powered aeroplane. Again, it might not be what you want to do. You might want to get a share. You might want to own one. I don't know, but it gives you a bit of an insight as to actually the expense of owning one as opposed to owning your glider. And then we'll end with some questions. Very aware it's quite a big topic, going to fly powered airplanes, gliding, whatever it is. It's a very big subject. And, if you've got any questions on the gliding front or any questions on the power front, I'd be delighted to answer them at the end. So do please, if I haven't covered it tonight or it's a question that you've had burning for a while, please let me know. Because with 30, 40 minutes, which is really all tonight will be, there's actually a lot more that could be covered. So please don't hesitate to talk to me. So understanding your own goals. Like I said to you earlier, I think it's very important that you understand where you want to be in flying, either from the outset or at least try and carve yourself a little route path to doing it. And for me, the flying that I like to do was aerobatics and vintage airplanes. And I obviously always wanted to be a commercial pilot. So for me, that was the way I personally wanted to go. And I was, able to sort of forge a route plan right at the beginning, which was quite lucky. A lot of people in my position, a lot of people are able to do that. And it's really only now that you realize how lucky you are if you are in that position. If you are, have a think about it. Think about what you want to do. Think about what the end goal is. If you're not, try and have a think about it. It's not the end of the world. Learning to fly is learning to fly. But, as you go along, try and work it out. Work out what it is you'd like to do. And again, like I said earlier, I'm more than happy to lend a hand or talk to anyone that's slightly unsure or needs some help getting pushed in the right direction. So just a few of the options available to you. The airline's an option. Personally, I don't think it's as big a disaster in that front as a lot of people may think. I think the airline industry is boom or bust. It's either going brilliantly or not going very well at all. I think that the vaccine, it's not a magic bullet, but I do think flight training will start to pick up. Maybe not instantly, but I think it will start to pick up. So if you're sitting there and you want to go into the airlines, if you start training now, probably quite a good time, because in 2 years' time you'll come out the other end. If you're finishing now, probably not as easy, but I don't think all is lost. So I'm personally quite positive about the airline situation. So if that's the way you want to go, don't be put off by it at the moment. Flight instructing. So there's two ways you can instruct, on an FI or a CRI. And I've labelled the CRI in red because it's quite a good little rating. I've always thought, actually, having done so much gliding instructing, actually you learn your trade much better through teaching it. I mean, I personally find that. I think you learn to do what you're doing much better through seeing other people's mistakes. Just recently started instructing on the 737, and it's only now that I've been in the simulator watching people that I sit there and go, oh, hang on, that's quite a good way of doing it, or that's not such a good way of doing it. And I think it's very important that you can then bring that back to your own flying. And the CRI class rating instructor is what it stands for. It's a very good little rating. I think you only have to have 200 hours or so total time. So that's every bit of flying you've done. You can do the CRI course, which is, I think, a 4-day course with only 3 hours of flying. So it's fairly inexpensive. And that allows you to do every bit of flying every bit of teaching, I should say, that's not with someone that hasn't got a license. So you can do tailwheel conversions, you can do IMC training, you can do aerobatics, you can train, pilots that haven't flown for 30 years that have, got other ratings. You can help them get their single engine piston rating back. You can do the biannual, actually, flight review as a CRI. So there's quite a lot of flying that you can do off a fairly inexpensive rating. And again, it does teach you a lot about your own sport and your own flying. So the CRI I've labelled in red because I think it's a little gem that not enough people know about at the moment. Touring is another one. So do you want to go touring? Where do you want to do? Do you want to go flying in France? Do you want to go flying around the UK? Do you want to go flying abroad? And again, that begs the licensing question, what license you have and what license you need. But a lot of people like that, flying for 3 or 4 hours, seeing new places, seeing new scenery. So touring is something you can look at. Vintage airplanes. There's a big joy of vintage airplanes for me. That's where I like to fly. Tiger Moths, lots of old airplanes. That's my love. Aerobatics, towing, and there's a lot more to say the least. So I find that vintage and aerobatics for me is fantastic, but there are a lot more alleyways to power flying other than going to get the very expensive cup of coffee, which a lot of people seem to view it as. And again, I'm not sort of vouching for the power side here. I'm vouching for both, and I think it's very important at the beginning of this seminar that we understand that I'm going for both sides of flying. And it's important to note that the power flying does bring another string to your bow. It's not just the expensive cup of coffee. There's a lot of other things you can do. And of course, display flying is the other thing that you can get into, which is quite good fun. Benefits of starting in gliding, I thought was a good one to put in there. I'm trying to give you through tonight a bit of a route path, since we're all glider pilots here, or I hope we are. If not, we're probably in the wrong chat. It's very important that you are aware, if you're a glider pilot right now, how you can progress that to your chosen end goal, how you can, and what the benefits are. I see quite a lot of people, I've seen quite a lot of people that kind of, when I was training, that started on powered airplanes. When I left to go and do my commercial, I did it probably the way that a lot of people did it stage by stage. And a lot of the guys there kind of wanted to do a bit of gliding, but felt it was a bit of a waste of money. Felt that if I spend, whatever money I do doing some gliding, then that's money I could spend towards my commercial or power flying. Now, I'm here to stop that. I can tell you that in my time flying for the airlines, instructing in the 737, my gliding has been the best thing, the best training, the best experience that I could possibly have asked for, and worth much more than the money I would have spent on it, just because it was a passion. I'd spend it in a heartbeat, but worth much more than just the cost it was to get the rating. The hand flying skills, second to none. If you want to go and fly, I think what's this Cessna 120 I've got there, you want to go and fly any aeroplane, you will feel very, very comfortable, very, very secure. If you've done a level of gliding, you'll feel absolutely fine. Your stick and rudder skills, having been a glider pilot, I can tell clear as day if I'm doing a biennial, whatever I'm doing for a power pilot, almost within the first 5 minutes of flying with them, I can tell whether they've started in gliding, because they are able to relax. They're able to focus on other things that aren't the stick and rudder, and that only comes from being very comfortable with it, which comes from gliding. So your hand flying skills are second to none. And if you guys are sat there and you want to go to the airlines, you'll find that flying the airplane in 30, 40 knots of a crosswind, if that's really what you want to go and do, isn't an issue for you. And that really only stems personally for me from the gliding experience that I've had. Practical problem solving, again, there's another big red point here for me. Practical problem solving. Now, I find I'm trying to weigh out the pros and cons here for both sides. I find some schools, some, wherever you want to go, try and commercialize the kind of problem solving, the what to do in the event of emergency in the power world. I haven't seen anything written down as to what you should exactly do in the event of emergency in a glider. And I don't see many big problems with that either, but you see a lot with the power world. I think that's a bit of a detriment. And what it's taught me, personally, I can only talk from personal experiences. Actually, when it goes wrong at work, when it goes wrong in anything, I'm always a glider pilot first and power pilot second. I always fall back on the decision making of a glider pilot. I think it's very important, because you don't fall back on what it says in the book. You fall back on what you sit there and you think is right. I'm not saying that's brilliant. I'm not saying that's the only thing you need to do, but I think there's a balance to be struck here. And if you've got the ability to sit on your hands, lift your head out of a situation and properly analyze it without, thinking what's the manual going to say. And then if you're able to kind of mix the professionalism, the kind of manual reading from the power / airline world, mix it with the stuff you've learned in gliding, it's a definite recipe for success. That's the best thing that's ever happened to me personally, is the problem solving. I'm able to really sit on my hands, analyze the situation, and basically think as a glider pilot. I put myself back in teaching how do I be polite? A less than average student in a K21, when it's gone wrong, what would I do? And you can relate that to most things in Power World as well. And landaways is the last red point here. I think the kind of landaway experience you get with gliding, whether it be landaway, I mean, some of us here, I don't know, I used to fly at Dunsborough. Fantastic club. I loved it. Lovely place to fly. But I'm not sure I'd pick it if it was a field landing, so even the airfields that we fly at in gliding are very challenging, let alone the fields that we decide to throw ourselves into. So, you know, picking up your Cessna or your Super Cub or whatever you're starting to transition into is fantastic. I never, having done all the gliding I'd done first, I never even thought twice about going and landing in a farm strip or going to land at a difficult place. It was, you know, you were used to it. You know, I can think of two guys in here that I've landed in the same field with, and yeah, it's harder than any power site that I can think I could probably go into. So landaways definitely teaches you a lot. The experience you get through not worrying about where you're going to land or what the airfield's doing. And again, it comes back to the mixture of practical problem solving. I flew with a guy not long ago who I did a biannual for. I can't remember if it's biannual or just some general training, but it was all about what the mass and balance said on a bit of paper to go into this airfield. And we took off, and I knew it was going to be kind of tight. But he looked at the paper, it said we can do it. I think he had about 10 foot on the stop distance required or something like that. And from a gliding point of view, having known the airfield, having known the aeroplane, and knowing where we were going, I knew that this was going to work. I knew that the aircraft could land there. However, I've only got that from flying. I've only got that from gliding, and the experiences that all of us have had. But it was a clear sort of point that actually maybe you don't learn that so much in the power world, because on paper, yeah, we could get in there, but hang on, what's the practicalities of that? Can we really do it? What's going to get me here that maybe you don't know? And that's a fantastic thing that gliding teaches you. Understanding the weather, again, goes without saying. A lot of glider pilots understand the weather. A lot of power pilots understand how to get their aircraft very wet. It's something that, you know, again, starting in gliding is brilliant. And the management, this is something that I thought was brilliant. More for, again, guys that want to go maybe to the airlines, want to go and fly or manage a flight school, whatever you want to do in flying in powered airplanes. The management side is fantastic. You can instruct at 16, and bear in mind, in a glider, you can instruct at 16. You can just about go solo on a powered airplane at 16. Now, that for me was fantastic. So you can basically start your career a lot earlier and progress a lot earlier than you would potentially in the power world. And I thought that was a fantastic thing to think about, because at 16 years old, you can be an instructor. 17, I think it is now for an ASCAT, or maybe even 16. You can, progress your flying career and go into management long before potentially you could even hold a PPL. So I think that's a fantastic start that gliding gives you. It gives you the ability to start being a manager, to start being a captain, to start being in charge, to start having that responsibility that maybe you wouldn't be allowed to have till later in the power world. And again, that's a massive bonus that you can take into power flying with. So again, many more. We've not got a huge amount of time tonight, but they're really the biggest points with the benefits to starting yourself in gliding. So if you're in this position thinking, am I wasting my time? No, gliding is absolutely, for me, a fantastic form of flying. I don't think I'll ever stop gliding. But more to the point, for the guys that are just starting out, it's a fantastic grounding, the best grounding. If I was Prime Minister, if I was leader of all aviation, I'd make everyone that wants to go to the airlines, everyone that wants to go and fly a powered airplane, go and fly gliders. In fact, when I'm teaching aerobatics in powered airplanes, I won't teach them. I won't go and teach them. They want to go and roll a Cap 10, they want to go and roll an extra, that's fine. I can go and show you how to move the stick to the right and it'll do it fantastically. But I won't do it. The only time I'll start to teach someone aerobatics is they come up and roll a K21 with me. Because again, gliding, stick and rudder, you've got to learn every element of a roll and then bring it to the power world. So, if you're in that position, crack on, keep going, because I promise you, in the long run, you'll keep guiding because it is fun, and also it'll benefit you massively if you want a career or if you want to learn to fly things with engines in the front. So the route, path, or paths. So this is where it gets slightly convoluted. So I've tried to make it in as best order as I possibly can. And I'll talk you through it because there's quite a lot of things to write in there. But the TMG extension to your SPL. Now, fantastic talk from Pete Stratton not long ago with the SFCL licensing. So if you haven't seen that, catch up on it on YouTube because it is absolutely outstanding. Really good talk. So the SPL, I hope you all know, sailplane pilot's license. If you've got one of those, essentially is a bronze cross country at the moment, bronze cross country endorsement. And that sort of constitutes your SPL, but for the TMG extension, you have to hold one. So TMG extension to your SPL, you must hold an SPL. So we're all happy with touring motor glider, so flying your Venture or your SF25, whatever it is. Got to hold an SPL, 6 hours of flight training, it's a solo cross country with 80 nautical miles and a skills test. So essentially, if you want to bolt a TMG onto your SPL, that is what you have to do. Now, note there is no theory side to this. Now, I believe you have to pass sort of a spoken or oral theory test amongst your skills test, and I believe you have to kind of theoretically answer, or 75%, I think, in the questions that they ask you. In reality, I think you'll probably be asked a few questions probably in the test, probably before you go flying, and any examiner can sort of base your theoretical knowledge on a few of the right questions. So I wouldn't worry too much on that. But yeah, you've got to be expected to know all the 9 sections of the PPL or LAPL exams, and you can kind of expect to be tested to know 75% of every section. But again, there is no written exam at the moment, I will add. But there's just a spoken one on the skills test. Then if you decide that you want to go from your TMG on your sailplane pilot's license, so we've done our bronze cross country, converted that to an SPL, we've done this route path of training, and we've got our TMG extension to the SPL, you have to do 21 hours in a TMG post skills test for your light aircraft pilot's license aeroplane A. So that is your sort of one, sort of same as your PPL, but again a bit less. We'll have a talk about that a bit later. So 21 hours in your TMG post skills test, and you can apply for your LAPL A. Again, there will be questions. There will probably be tests involved with getting you up and running on a car, but Cessna, whatever you want to do. But that is essentially a route path you can take. So your SPL, so if you're sitting there holding a bronze cross country and you think, how the hell can I convert this to a something I can use in the Power World War One? You can put your TMG on your sailplane pilot's license through that method, or you can do the 21 hours in a TMG post skills test for your LAPLA. Again, there's lots of very experienced people in here, so at the end, we'll have some questions and answers on this. But that's the route path at the moment. Your PPLA, I thought I'd put that in there as just a sort of an out and out. If you want to go straight for your PPL, having got an SPL, being partway through your gliding, 45 hours is total time, 5 of which can be counted. I put in there as FSTD, so flight sim training device. You can put 5 of those hours down as sort of in a synthetic simulator. Not many schools that I know do it, so whether you do or not, I don't actually know with sims the price they are now, whether it be much cheaper. But it's essentially a 45-hour course, 25 hours of which are dual, 10 hours of supervised solo, 5 hours of solo cross country, and you've got to do 150 nautical mile cross country with 2 landings, not including your departure aerodrome. So yeah, it's, if you want to go straight to your PPL, that's the way that you need to do it. Again, I'll talk to you a bit more about what I would do at the end, but again, it comes down to your chosen route path and whatever you want out of gliding at the end. So Your LAPL-A. So if you want to go straight from your gliding, whatever stage you are, whether you hold an SPL or you don't, straight to a LAPL-A, which is again light aircraft pilot's license aeroplane, you can either do your TMG extension on your SPL, do your 21 hours post TMG and get your LAPL-A, or if you want to do it from the off, it's 15 hours dual in an SEP or a TMG, of which 6 of those hours solo, 3 hours cross country, and 180 nautical mile cross country with 1 full stop landing, different departure aerodrome. So a lot less flying, a lot less flying. So again, it depends what you want out of your flying to have a look at. Again, there's so many different things I can talk about with this. So if you're unsure as to the meaning of the LAPL, you're unsure as to what exactly you can do with that, we'll have a chat with it after the talk. Your LAPL-A to a PPL-A. So if you have done whatever route path I've just spoken about and you want to then upgrade it to a PPL-A, it's 15 hours of flying, 10 hours dual, and 2 hours for the 150 nautical mile cross country that you've now got to upgrade to. So if you want the full PPL-A, why would I want a full PPL-A off an LAPL-A? Well, you've got a passenger carrying restriction, a horsepower restriction on your engine from an LAPL-A, from a LAPL, I should say. And also, if you want to go the commercial route, you will need a PPL, full UK PPL. Again, God knows what's going to happen post Brexit with our licensing issue. I was kind of hoping we'd get a bit more out of it with the announcement from the 9th, but not a huge amount. But in principle, I think it will stay fairly similar. You'll need a PPL-A to continue to do your commercial exams. So route path continue. I thought the one that's more pertinent to most of us with gliding is your SPL, sailplane pilot's license to PPL-A. Again, I've put in red at the bottom there. It's for future airline pilots, really. So the airline pilots of the future that are sat there, I guess most of the juniors here will be in that category. If you're working towards an SPL-A, well, what is my gliding doing to help me with my career? Well, if you hold an SPL, you have 24 hours TMG, post-TMG skills test. So if you've done your TMG extension to your SPL, and then it's 15 hours flight instruction to include your 150 nautical mile cross country, and that's for future airline pilots. That's your route path to go. So that's how you get your PPL-A through your sailplane pilot's license. Again, we'll have some more questions of that in the end. But essentially, they're the ways you can do it. Again, quite convoluted. It's quite thick stuff. But for me personally, it's so important that you know what you want out of the end goal for it. Because for me, wanting to go to the airlines, well, brilliant. The benefit to me and the way I ended up doing it was my gliding, so sailplanes to powered airplanes. And it was the best route for me, not only practically with licenses, but I can't stress enough, getting SPL, doing some gliding, getting some experience. Although you don't have to go and fly in the mountains to go and fly a big jet, it's very, very useful. You don't have to go and fly in the mountains to be a good pilot for the rest of your life, but it will help you a great deal. So if you're in that category, you're thinking, I want to do one of these, want to go LAPL, SPL, PPL, whatever you want to do. LAA, Light Aircraft Association, and I've written there in red, permit aircraft the way forward. I should categorise that for powered aeroplanes, really. And again, I don't touch on microlights, anything like that. I don't do that sort of stuff. Never been into the microlight stuff. I know we're having a merger with the LAA, but I've never done it. But if you're looking for Group A flying or Group A flying that's fairly affordable, very affordable, the Light Aircraft Association is something I've not really heard, not really been bigged up as much as I thought it would, because it does bring some very, very affordable flying if that's the way you want to go. And if you're looking to convert yourself or transition from the gliding world to the power world, the LAA is definitely the offering that's a lot cheaper. Benefits to the LAA are very cheap Group A flying. I'll put that in red, because if you want to go and take command of a big heavy aeroplane, you need an ATPL. For your ATPL, I think it's 500. Your ATPL issues 500 hours multi-pilot time, so on your jet, and 1,500 hours total, of which that could be flying a Evans VP1, an LAA airplane that costs you probably £15 an hour in fuel, maybe even less on a little VW engine. I know of a lot of guys that trained alongside me doing commercial flying that did all of their hour building on a cheap LAA aircraft. They paid negligible amount for the airplane, did 100 hours on it and sold it, and actually made money. So one of my friends sold his Evans VP1 and did, I don't know, 100 hours of flying on it and actually made money at the end of it. He sold it for more than paid for it and actually covered all his fuel and a bit more at the end. So very, very cheap group A flying. Pilot owner maintenance, so you can do all your work with the auspices of LAA inspector. Affordable aircraft for sale, again, it's very much like gliding, really. What route do you want to go down? I know there was a talk, or it might be one coming up, about where you can go with gliding. It's the same with powered, the LAA with powered airplanes. It's so much variety of aircraft out there that and there are lots of affordable. You can buy a powered airplane for £2,000 if you really want to. Perfectly safe. If that's the way you want to do it, that's the way you can do it. And as a whole, powered airplanes are much cheaper than gliders. No massive maintenance programs. Engines are all on condition. That's the big thing here. Is you can fly an engine till it gives up. You don't have to have all these lengthy inspections. You don't have to have big overhauls. You can fly an engine until it needs work, and then you fix the problem rather than having to take the whole thing out at great expense. So that's the big thing. Engines are the expensive things in airplanes, and I'm very lucky with the LAA and aircraft that are on permits. They're all on condition, so it doesn't matter too much. I know of lots of guys that are finishing builds at the moment, building brand new airplanes and putting time expired engines in because the age-old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're putting time expired engines in new airplanes because the engine's perfectly fine. Affordable coaching readily available. I feel the LAA have really got this right with the pilot coaching program. If you haven't seen it already, you want to go into the power world, either talk to me about it, go on the LAA website and just look up the pilot coaching program. The LAA have a wing scheme, so you can go through all sort of different stages of your flying. You get kind of similar to the gliding with the badge scheme for whatever flying you've done. I think you've got to do a certain amount of hours, have landed at a certain amount of places, done a certain amount of hours in different areas. The wing scheme is there, and you've got a coach mentoring you as well, an LAA coach mentoring you. So affordable coaching readily available. So if you go on, you'll see lots of coaches in your area on the LAA website. So if you haven't looked at it, look at the pilot coaching scheme on the LAA website and look at where you can find a coach. Again, I'm more than happy to help anyone. Well, any junior glider pilot, I'm more happy to travel to. Eastern region really for me is where I am. Funding is readily available, fairly similar to gliding really. We've got a lot of scholarships out there. There is money there to be given. So, if you're worried about that side of things, there is funding available. I think recently there was a bursary with the LAA, I think it's £1,500 towards your flight training, which will go a long way to doing your PPL on a permit aeroplane. So what I thought I'd do at the end of it is kind of give you a bit of a breakdown. If you're really unsure of owning a light aircraft, and I would add a permit aircraft, I haven't won the lottery. This is really a good breakdown. It's important to look. I put the initial purchase cost and insurance share up the top first. Purchase cost of an aeroplane, whatever you want to spend on it. I could talk for hours on what to buy, and an insurance share. How much is an insurance share? Well, I know of people within the LAA that pay the owner maybe their £200 a year for their insurance and fly it for fuel only, which in most airplanes, I will say most, most continental engines won't burn more than £20-25 an hour. So yeah, insurance share is a big red item there because that's really the cheapest way to go, and it is possible. Lots of people do it. So the purchase cost of the airplane, you've got to consider. Sit down and think, how much money do I have to spend on my new toy? And again, it can go from £2,000, and you have a lot of fun with it. My first powered airplane, I paid £6,000 for, was a Jodel 112, And this sort of cost breakdown, I've kind of tried to vary. So the worst case scenario I've written down there really for me. So farm hangar fee, 1,200 to 400 per annum to keep it at a farm strip. Your insurance around £400 to £700 a year. The maintenance 400 per hour, including per annum, including a permit fee, as long as there's nothing wrong. And again, if there is something wrong, lots of people out there will help you, or you can do it yourself, so it won't cost you a huge amount of money. 36 hours, roundabout average what I did in my little Jodel when I used to have it. It cost me less than £25, but worst case £25, about £900 a year. So you're looking at 444 per annum owning your own aeroplane. Worst case, I pay £2,500 a year for a Cassette Racer, and split 4 ways, 100. So you know, for 36 hours, keeping the aeroplane split between 4 mates, it's about £90 to £100 a month, and that gives you 36 hours in it as well. So again, totally not drawn to scale, totally not completely accurate. It's a rough guide, and that's running a sort of Continental engine. It's a rough guide, and I think it's quite important to show you, because for me, that money, you know, it's quite expensive to own an aircraft outright, but split between 4 ways, which is, you know, perfectly acceptable. You've actually got a very affordable way of flying something with an engine at the front, let alone going instructing, going tugging, whatever you want to do. So, you know, it's a very cheap, or a cheaper alleyway into whatever flying you want to do, and I think something that's not been explored enough, really. So the crux to this whole talk, I suppose, is enjoy both gliding and power flying as a complement to each other. I know, you know, what I'm doing now, flying both gliders, flying at work, teaching at work, whatever I'm teaching, both of them have helped me. And I would say, you know, if I'd started as a power pilot, I wouldn't have been half, you know, I wouldn't have had half the flying skills. It's so important, that stick and rudder time, the practical experience, the ability to sort of lift your head out of scenarios, instructing again. And what I say, if you want to know your game really well, instruct in it. So if you want to know gliding well, instruct. You know, if you're a cross-country pilot, share your knowledge, go out and fly with people. So enjoy both as a complement to each other, and don't take the dark side power flying. Oh God, he's doing this, he's gone here. You know, they're both a complement to each other. There's times where I think I'd much rather be in my Cirrus, and there's times I think I'd much rather be in the whatever powered airplane it is. So enjoy them both as a complement to each other. Understand, you know, where you want to go with it. So sit and think, what's my end goal here, and what do I want to do? Think about the route to doing it, and you know, enlist some help with that. I'm more than happy to help anyone that's slightly unsure as to where they need to go with the sport. I know Jordan's in the chat; he's very good at that. Piers, he's an Airbus pilot, but he's quite a nice guy. So yeah, it's you know, ask people, use them both as a complement, know your goal, and yeah, if you've got anything you want to ask, please go ahead. So yeah, that's really the end of the talk, guys. So yeah, half an hour, 40 minutes, I think it was. Very short. So please ask questions. There's lots and lots I could have spoken about tonight, including the MPPL, FITMG, all this sort of route path. But yeah, please do ask me questions. Please find the guys at your clubs that fly both powered and light aircraft, and definitely enlist some help. So it's been a pleasure talking tonight, guys. Please fire some questions at me.
Alex, if I turn on question mode, the questions will appear on the screen for everyone to see. So I'll just do that for you.
I just need to go to Q&A mode, yeah?
Yeah, Q&A, and then you can click through them.
Show questions list. Sorry, guys, I'm completely rubbish with this technology. Show question list.
Hoping.
I want to pop up there, Lucy.
No. Oh, if you go over to the right Alex, and put your mouse over each question and click publish. It'll show the question for everyone else, and then you can work them.
No, that's fantastic. Okay, publish. Will 3-axis microlights count towards an ATPL? David, yeah, good question. I know we are merging with the, there is a merger talk between the BMA and the LAA. Essentially, as it stands at the moment, I believe it's Group A only. ATPL, yeah, it's total time, but I think it's Group A. It is worth looking at because you will get, I'm sure, some sort of a dispensation. I know with the gliding hours that I had, I could count not a huge amount. I think I could count 10 or 20 towards it. It wasn't a huge amount, but there will be a dispensation out there. I don't think it will count for nothing, especially 3-axis. I mean, weight shift, probably a bit of a dodgy territory. But I think it's worth looking into that because you will probably get a dispensation for it, yeah. Do you have to do the 9 written exams if you want to go straight to LAPL from SPL? So if you want to go straight to LAPLA from SPL. So Andrew, yeah, good question. It depends how you want to do it. So if you have an SPL with a TMG extension on it, you then just do your 21 hours and a test. So I believe no is the answer to that. You don't. But if you want to go bypass the 20-something hours, then you probably will. So it depends how you want to run that. What can I do with an MPPL? It seems to be a bit of a dead end. Oh, David, yeah. If I'm honest with the MPPL, it's a difficult one. I think I kind of agree with you. It's a bit of a dead duck in the water at the moment. You know, with the LAPLA, the LAPLA coming out. I was talking to Lucy about it earlier. She's kind of wanting to upgrade to LAPLA as well. And it's a difficult one. I am aware there is a conversion process. However, to have got your LAPLA or whatever you wanted, I think it was before 2018, you had to convert that. Yeah, it's not worth doing now if you ask me with the LAPL out. And if you have one, it's probably worth talking to a flight school as to how you can maybe convert that. I don't think it will be starting from square one. There will be a conversion process, but what can you do with it now? Probably not a huge amount. I'm planning to get an SPL conversion. I don't have the TMG privilege. I was originally planning to do a TMG before potentially getting PPL. Would following through that still be the best option? Right, Rupert, sorry, let me just understand your question. It's a very good question, and these take time to kind of process. So I'm planning to get an SPL conversion. Don't have the TMG privilege. I was originally planning to do a TMG before potentially getting PPL. Would following through still be the best option? So essentially, you have a bronze cross country at the moment, and you're looking to get a sailplane pilot, or you want to convert. You don't have the TMG privilege, and you were going to go straight for the PPL. Right. So, Rupert, I think it's even more important for you to understand what you want to finish with. Whether it's go. Sorry, I've not had the pleasure of meeting you, so I don't know whether it's airlines you want to go. I don't know if it's instructing you want to go. If you want to go to sort of the commercial world, as it were, to FI or to any sort of commercial flying, I would say probably best going straight from SPL to PPL. But if it's sort of general sort of flying around the UK / bit of touring, then maybe go for the TMG privilege and then add it from the PPL or the LAPL. So it depends what you want to do, really. Four questions. So that seems to be all the questions, guys. Let me just have a quick look to make sure there's nothing here that I've missed. Yeah. Okay, guys. So I can't see any more questions there. You know, if you do find something that, you know, oh, hang on. Did Sully Sullenberger fly sailplanes? Yeah, he did. And that's quite a good thing to bring up. It's very interesting for me to see that, because the practical problem solving, you know, whether you like what he did or not, again, there's a fair amount of luck in what he did. However, you can see the glider pilot in that the sort of flying skills, the you know, the problem solving. He lifted the head out of the situation, actually worked out what was best for the aeroplane and the crew, rather than what was written down. And I know there were a fair few SOPs, operating procedures, that were broken there, and well, for the benefit of everyone involved. So yes, he did, and it was worthwhile. Can you get a towing endorsement on an LAPL? Yes, you can. So if you want to go towing, they're two different ratings. So if you want to go and do a TMG towing rating, then you will. Oh, hang on, I seem to have lost the question. Yeah, if you want to do a TMG towing rating, you'll have to do it there. Or if you want to do a Group A or single engine piston, then you can do it on that. But yes, you can do it on a Lapalay. Sorry guys, I'm struggling to get the rest of the questions here. There we go. How would you get to fly something like a Spitfire commercially, Aero Legends, for example? David, yeah, so difficult question. So if you want to go and fly a Spitfire commercially, it's a very difficult question. You'll have to go and get a fair amount of experience, go and get a display authorization, and work your way up. Start from the bottom, work your way up. If you see the guys that are flying them at the moment, they've put the graft in, they've started from the bottom, they've flown displays, they've worked their way up, put the graft in, and yeah, it's possible. You can't just go straight into doing it. If you go and get a commercial, you're nowhere near it. You have to go and go and fly displays, go and instruct, fly the right airplanes, and work your way up. But it's possible. Yeah. Sorry, Lisa, if you can give me the next one, that'd be grand. Who is Sully Sullenberger? Nicholas Barnes. Yeah, well, he's a guy that landed the Airbus on the Hudson River, having hit birds, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. Is there any more, Liz?
Can't see it at the moment, but there are a few people typing. So I don't know if they're typing just to say thank you if they've got a question.
Okay. I can't actually, Luz, can you try and see the comments? I can't actually see any of the comments.
Yeah.
I can't enlarge them.
Julian Hitchcock said that there's an advert looking for a seasoned tug pilot and instructor for Bognor Gliding Club fleet. DG 1001M and Grob 109T for hour builders.
Cool.
Yeah. Andrew's mentioned the movie called Sully about
Yeah. I will just mention actually that film was one of the only, when it first came out, I was absolutely adverse going to it, because all these films, you've got rolling big jets along the runway and all this sort of dramatized stuff. But I must say, that film Sully, they got it bang on, absolutely.